Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:46 and a quorum of members is present. So the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby.
Here.
Mr. Helmer.
Here.
Mr. Kurth. Ms. Scholes.
Here.
Mr. Seidel.
Here.
Ms. Unger.
Here.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Here.
I would entertain a motion to recess to closed session.
Madam President, I move to recess into closed session pursuant to Section 19.851C E and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider A, the approval of closed session minutes of November 22nd, B, employment, performance, compensation matters pertaining to staff, C, executive session to discuss superintendent evaluation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Helmer. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kurth. Yes. Mr. Helmer.
Yes.
Ms. Crosby.
Yes.
Ms. Scholes.
Yes.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Ms. Unger.
Yes.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Yes.
We are moving into closed session and will return to open session around 7 o'clock. allegiance to the flag. For all those who are able, please rise. And now, for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we'll have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by providing the agenda to the City Library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal-Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the Waukesha Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. We'll begin tonight with the elementary update. We have the
I'd
sixth
invite
grade.
our Principal Linder to come up with our special guest.
Good evening, everyone. I am very, very proud to introduce you to Sophie Joe. She is one of our amazing sixth graders at Orchard Lane, and she is going to be giving the update for Orchard Lane to you this evening. So she did, by the way, I just want to say this even before we start, the presentation was 100% Sophie's work. Like, she did an amazing job on it, and I know that she's excited to share with you this evening. So I will turn the mic over to Sophie, and it's all yours.
My school board presentation about Orchard Lane. Kindness Week. Kindness Week was a cool week. We got a Spirit Week, so we had Pajama Day. And Neon Day. We also had the food drive and almost quadrupled our goal of 150 food items. Mrs. Cater and Mr. Linder sang karaoke. Yikes. No bullying. Our school works really hard on no bullying. It's rare to see bullying take place in our school, but if so, we talk about so much that they're up standards, and we can go to any adult in the school. School candygrams. Our school has many fundraisers. The next one coming up is candygrams. It helps support the sixth grade moving on ceremony at the end of the year. Cool projects we've done. We've done a few cool projects like the social studies project where we got to make our own countries, and the writing project where we compared 5th and 6th grade. Band, orchestra, and choir concert. We have a few concerts during the year. We have an upcoming one on the 9th of December. It's really cool to get to play an instrument for your school. I started playing the alto saxophone this year. Riding and walking to school. Because of the location of our school, some kids get to walk to school or ride bikes. For example, I walk to school almost every morning. I added a bibliography to give credit to the pictures. Thanks for listening. Do you have any questions for me?
I will ask one. Which was better, 5th grade or 6th grade?
I liked both grades. I liked 6th grade math better, though. I think that 6th grade math is more fun this year for me.
And Sophie Jo, I have one question for you about High Interest Day. If High Interest Day were to come back this year, which I don't know if we know if it is, but what would be the one section that you would want to make sure was at High Interest Day?
High interest day is the one with all the jobs, right?
It's not all the jobs. That's the jump into your future. So at High Interest Day, I remember one year, a couple of years ago, where you sang karaoke, and my husband was the DJ, and you seemed to really enjoy that. But I'm trying to figure out if he should do it again this year, if it happens. What do you think?
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. Okay, thank you, Sophie Joe. I will let her know.
I mean, as long as Mr. Lindner isn't singing, I think that would be.
We could actually ban Mr. Lindner if we had to. But I personally enjoyed hearing about the karaoke because I heard it was actually pretty fun. So
We'll just have Bill turn it up really, really loud.
he'll do whatever you want him to. He's for hire, you know? So it's all good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have privilege of the floor. Meetings of the board are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the business of the schools and therefore are not public meetings, but meetings held in public. This portion of the meeting is an opportunity for you to come and voice your concerns to the board, so please do not be offended when we quietly listen. We may even take notes. We do not immediately respond to your questions and comments. This is a time for you to talk and us to listen. Thank you for coming to voice your comments and concerns. When I call your name, please step up to the microphone, address the chair, and state your name and whether or not you are a resident in the school district. Each presentation is to be restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. Privilege of the floor will be limited to 1/2 hour. Presentations are not to be designed for purposes of engaging others in a debate in this forum. Discussion of certified, classified, or professional personnel or of individual Board of Education members shall not be considered an appropriate topic for this forum, and the speaker will be ruled out of order. Just one speaker tonight, Charlotte Krupa.
I'm just going to put that down there so I don't knock it off. My name is Charlotte Krupa, and I live at 4440 South Highview Court in New Berlin, Wisconsin, and I am a resident. I just want to talk a little bit about history, and it's just going to be some statements. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare and security, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. The Preamble to the U.S. Constitution is an important statement of U.S. history. It had a role in shaping the destiny of our country. The writers of the Constitution began their document with the 3 words, "We the people," because they wanted to signify the fact that the citizens of the United States give the power to the government. Without this, our government would fail to be a democratic republic, a government controlled by the people. The study of our U.S. history is important so that students understand good citizenship. Parents and residents in New Berlin and around the country are trying to make sure that our schools and educators continue to teach the value of our U.S. history through curriculum topics like Christopher Columbus, the first explorers, and the American Indians, colonization, the different colonies, colonial life, the Declaration of Independence, the Revolutionary War, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, to name a few. Education of U.S. history through a solid curriculum can help to achieve a strong knowledge of citizenship. History is us. It's what makes America, America. We need to teach it to remember how important it is to live here. Thank you.
Thank you. The president's message and announcements is next. I'd just like to mention that Kate and I had the privilege of helping out the academic decathlon students with mock interviews last week, and both of us were incredibly impressed. They were really impressive. I noticed that they probably did interviews better than most adults, and I know Kate even said she would have hired any of those kids on the spot then. They were quite amazing. So I just would like to thank Nicole Thompson, who heads up that program, for inviting board members and giving us that opportunity to do that. And I wish all those students well. I guess they have a regional coming up in January, and I am sure they are going to be outstanding. Now we have the administrative team report.
Emily?
Winter sports are now underway. New Berlin United Wrestling headed to Campbell Sport last weekend for their first tournament of the year. They took second and had multiple boys on the podium. Boys United Swim and Dive went to West Dallas last week and had great success. Open gyms for soccer and track and field have started to help get athletes ahead of their seasons. El Sol, the National Spanish Honor Society, raised $2,600 to purchase gifts for Spanish-speaking families in Waukesha. El Sol members called the families of 17 kids ahead of time to learn more about their Christmas wishes and went shopping on Black Friday. They wrapped the gifts last week and they will be delivering them this week. Sol U is working to plan their Crystal Ball Dance and Spirit Week in January. DECA students took a field trip to Lambeau Field last week for a sports and entertainment marketing conference. Activities included a tour and multiple presentations. West is hosting another holiday giving drive this year to raise money for the Community Coop, which gives to students in need. The Man Who Came to Dinner play was quite a hit last weekend. Choir, band, and orchestra have their holiday concerts coming up, and they are working hard to prepare for them. Our school participated in Jerseys for Jackson last Friday to support the family of a student who lost his life in the Waukesha tragedy. And our school sent signs of support signed by our students, along with Hershey's Hugs and a donation from the Blessing Box to 5 Waukesha schools impacted by the tragedy of the holiday parade. Thank you.
Thank you. And the superintendent update.
Yeah, I did just want to provide a brief update related to COVID numbers. Again, we continue to kind of just ebb and flow as we did all of last year. We did see a minor uptick since the Thanksgiving holiday, but our numbers continue to go down since then. Again, we continue to work with the county health department and other Waukesha County school districts to compare ourselves with regard to rates. And again, we seem to be right in the mix. And as the community spread goes, so does the school spread, which is, kind of the main driver. So if you see community spread increase, you're going to see that likely in the schools. But we continue to keep our doors open. We continue to keep our schools open. We're certainly very proud of that. And then the only reminder we would have for families is, if your student has symptoms, try and keep them at home. Keep them at home. And I thank all the families for their cooperation throughout the year as well. Last week, I did share out an update with families related to the solution that we use, which is Securely. We actually use Securely as a means to inform parents of the searches that their respective student or students are doing while on their district-issued devices. We believe it's important for not only parents to know, but also for parents to consult with their kids on whether they believe certain sites are appropriate for them or not. So while we will do what we need to do as a school, we also believe it's important for parents to be a parent. And so we leave that in their hands, and certainly if there is a level of concern, we'll work with families as needed. But not only does Securely help us with that and other nuances related to technology, we also have been using them for roughly the last year or so, David, as it relates to having a tip line as it relates to any sort of significant school crises, I guess it would be the case. Whether it's reporting significant situations, somebody either looking to threaten the school or the school district or people at school, or somebody that's maybe experiencing mental health issues to the point of potential suicide, to other things such as bullying. On the other, when somebody calls that line, and again, we have this line available for our students 24/7, the people receiving that call will determine where, what level of concern and where specifically that call should be referred to. Obviously, anything at a very high level of concern will immediately contact the police department, sometimes even the building principal or myself immediately. If it's something that is not as immediate, excuse me, but something that does need to be addressed. They determine, again, the level, and they're trained professionals to determine where it needs to appropriately go. Again, we just wanted to send that reminder out. Interestingly enough, no sooner than we had sent that, we heard of a situation that occurred in Ohio. So, we want to send those things out and kind of keep it top of mind that it's just another resource for our families and their students and our school staff. So that was sent out. We did not receive a lot of, comments related to it, but again, just another friendly reminder that that's a resource that we certainly have. Speaking of resources, I'd like Kelly to briefly talk about Care Solace, but that's not how they present it, Kelly, right?
Solace.
Got it.
So Care Solace is a organization that we will be working with. As you know, we already partner with Family Services to provide in-district therapy support for students at our secondary buildings who have been identified as needing mental health therapy, and then their families. Family Services works with the families, and they work with the insurance, and then our students are able to be seen by one of their therapists on site. Unfortunately, mental health care is having the same issues that the rest of the world is having right now in hiring highly capable employees. And so at this time, Family Services is unable to provide an elementary therapist. They are still working. We do have an agreement with them that they will continue to work. But in the absence of that, and because we have some really good grant dollars available through our threat assessment grant as well as our mental health grant, we were able to partner with an organization called Care Solace. Most of you as parents were able to get a letter, should have gotten a letter today, it came from Amanda. But basically this is a service that's available to our families, to other children in the household, even if they do not go to our schools. It is available to our staff members, and most importantly, it is available to us as a way for us to reach out and say, hey, we have a student who is in need of some care. And then Care Solace actually does all of the background work. They contact like 20-some therapy companies in the area until they find somebody that can help this family and this student. They work directly with the family to determine how insurance is going to be used, and they are in constant contact. They also will work with families, so if a family's like, my child really needs to talk with somebody, but they would do better to talk to a female therapist. They will work to find a female therapist. They will try, if demographics are very important to a family, they will try to find similar demographics if that's important to the family. They speak multiple languages on the call center, and they are trained professionals in the call center. And so if a family speaks a different language, they are actually able to find somebody that can speak to them in that language so that we can make those connections very, very quickly. So we're very excited about this. It's something that some of our schools have already, they call it a warm handoff. So if we identify a student in need, we contact Care Solace. We call it a warm handoff. We actually contact the family first and say, this is available to you. We feel this would be something that your child might need. Most of our families are like, yes, please help us in any way that you can. And like I said, if a family's in need, you will have access, parents will have access, families will have access to this even for themselves. And it really focuses on mental health care, and any kind of substance, alcohol, abuse type issues as well. So we're pretty excited about it, and we'll kind of provide updates as we do around what we're doing with mental health, social emotional learning when we do our data updates throughout the year.
I think the key component to what Kelly mentioned is that this is in cooperation with families. We want parents, parents need to be involved. We want parents involved, and this is just another option and opportunity and resource for them as they see appropriate. Moving on to the next item, which is the Education Foundation of New Berlin. We do have a new director, she's a part-time director, and her name is Julie Cordero. She's now been on staff for a couple months, and they've kind of hit the ground running already and moving some things forward. For example, one of the things that Julie has been working on on our behalf and with us is connecting with the Kern Foundation, which the Kern Family Foundation is a pretty significant, substantial foundation here in Waukesha County, particularly in Waukesha. And we have been actually working with them on determining what types of resources they may have available to us and for opportunities for our students in the school district. So, certainly they are working with Julie on how to maximize opportunities as a foundation. And then Julie is also working with us and with them on how they may be able to help us and partner with us on whatever type of resources they may have, whether it be financial or other. I know in a conversation that I had with Kate, one of the items that we're looking at of several items is how do we bring Project Lead the Way options into the elementary, which is something that we've been wanting to do, but obviously some things have kind of happened over the course of the last couple years that have delayed our efforts. They are a great partner with Project Lead the Way. They actually met with some of our staff as they toured our facilities. I'm talking about the Kern Foundation themselves. And they're really excited about partnering with us and bringing those opportunities into our elementary schools moving forward. And I think it'd be a great opportunity for our students. It's a natural fit as we offer a variety of different courses at the middle school and high school. And I think it would be a seamless fit with the updated science curriculum that we've updated a couple years ago. And so that's something that Brady we'll be looking at. Brady's already been doing that, and it's kind of interesting how it all kind of converged together. But that's just one example of the things that we've been working on with not only the Kern Family Foundation, but the Education Foundation of New Berlin. As you may be aware, they also, and I do know that there were several board members that were at our 50th anniversary celebration and fundraiser for Eisenhower. It seems like 10 years ago, but it was only like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now. So they supported that. That was a fundraiser. And I know right now they did something small last week for Giving Tuesday. And, as I had mentioned in a call with Mitch, it's kind of tough right now because, there's a really, really strong push with the situation that happened in Waukesha. And so it's just being very strategic about the timing of it. And I know that they've raised a lot of funds, well deservedly so, for the Waukesha Strong campaign. But I know that we're going to send something out tomorrow, through all of our students to kind of just continue to get that word out. Another thing that we've been looking to do that the foundation will be partnering with the school district on is we are applying to have an opportunity to have a vending opportunity at the 4th of July celebration with the city of New Berlin. And so I know that Patrick works very closely with Julie and the foundation, and while this may be something new, we're excited about the potential of what that could bring for the foundation. I also do know that they're looking to raise funds for they gave out basically they had staff apply for classroom scholarships or whatever it was that they had the opportunities for. I believe 5 were granted last year, and they've kind of followed up with how that's been, and they've got a small campaign related to that, so they're looking to raise funds for that. And so they're certainly moving forward, and I think they know clearly that while the district has supported them financially in the past, we're not going to be doing so anytime soon. And we really are very interested on the types of funds that they will be able to raise on our behalf. because they exist for us. And so certainly really excited. It's, I do know that the board of directors has made personal gifts to the foundation, which is something that, interestingly enough, hadn't been asked of them before. So know that we may be asking this board. I do know that we're working with Julie on seeing what we can do as far as a staff campaign where, we would, be, having some sort of campaign. There might be some sort of match from, district office staff if certain amount of dollars are raised. And so we're really excited about the work that they're doing. And again, we're really looking forward to actually seeing the results that we had expected previously under Julie's direction. Those are my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. On to the consent agenda, which will include the notice, the approval of minutes from November 22nd, international field trip request, and a student group ACT prep club. Are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration?
I just wanted to comment. I was happy to see we see another international field trip coming up. So very cool.
And I was just made aware that if I think it's dance teams qualify for nationals, that we're kind of full steam ahead. The only thing is we're just encouraging, actually we're requiring that they get insurance on those trips because while maybe Florida may not shut down, you just never know what's going to happen. So that's our only requirement.
Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and second by Mr. Kurth to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes. On to our regular agenda. Discuss updated presentation relative to version 2 of the long-range facilities funding plan.
We came to the board in the first meeting in November and let you know that we would be coming back. We kind of left the last meeting with what questions do you have, and we've got responses to those questions. And we will be looking for your approval tonight. As you are aware and you noticed on the agenda, we actually have 2 action items following this presentation. They are separated out just to make it clear not only to the community, but also to the board on what exactly they were voting for. But it is all related to this presentation. These are the things that I'm going to touch on. Not all of these things had been presented previously, but like the first item, for example, the real-time trends will put into context where we are budgetarily at this time for the current school year. And then we kind of have these other items that were discussed previously. I did just want to touch on several things related to how are things going. I mean, I think we as our homeowners and the people that write out the checks in our own homes and taking care of our families, we are seeing the impact of inflation and really just know that we are being impacted by it as well, but also know that we've done some things proactively to minimize that impact. And I'll have Patrick speak briefly on those things. So material and supplies, I mean, obviously it's, pun intended, supply and demand is going to drive cost. And when you've got not only just supply shortages, but also you've got the supply chain issues that we have to deal with as well. We are seeing an impact on that. Now, mind you, we've already taken care of some of our bigger projects, and so as we go out to bid for these future projects that hopefully you'll approve, or you've already approved, and now it's just a matter of updating that. We've talked to a couple different contractors, and they're just they are impacted by this, and so I guess Mitch, I'll have to follow up with you at some point too. But what are contracts looking like? Are they looking different than they've ever have? And because it's just a new dawn, a new day with just the impact that this has. I'm going to have Patrick talk about utility costs and gas prices. And Patrick, if you could talk about just briefly some of the things that we do that has kind of mitigated the impact that this has had on the school district.
Thanks, Joe. So starting with the utility costs, some of the things that the district does to help bring some savings to the district. With regards to utilities, number one, we have I would call it a pre-purchase agreement with natural gas. We actually bulk purchase a certain amount of natural gas at the wellhead, and again, we're not talking enormous savings, but it is savings that is to the district, especially when we're coming into this winter where they're talking about fuel costs for heating that are going to be astronomical compared to last year. And for example, we lock our prices in 9 months prior. And so long before these prices were anticipated to go up, we've already locked in our prices for the district. So that will be a tremendous savings for the district going into the heating season. One of the things that we are very blessed with in the district with regards to electricity is one of our custodians head custodians has extensive training in electric utilization management. And actually last week, he and Andy started to dig into our electrical costs because we are seeing an uptick in our electric costs this year, and here's one of the things that I'll say, is we can do many, many things in the district to reduce our electrical consumption. But that does not always equal an energy savings, okay? So we're looking into what our energy consumption is, and most importantly, what our energy rates are with We Energies, so that we can track, what's happening with regards to our electrical consumption. Gas prices as well. We do a purchasing plan with a company that provides all of our fuel for transportation services. So instead of us paying Durham for the Durham to provide their own fuel, we actually provide the fuel that they use for our services. So we get that at a bulk rate discount, and we also receive rebates for any of the taxes that are on that. We also just recently changed all of our internal fleet from one vendor to a different vendor that actually takes the taxes off of the purchase before we actually make the purchase, which eliminates us having to file IRS paperwork at the end of the year to get that refund. All in all, I think the district does many great things to help us, number one, monitor, and number two, mitigate the costs related to utilities and gasoline for transportation, those types of things.
Thank you, Patrick. And again, unfortunately, as like an independent homeowner, you may not be able to take advantage of the things that we're able to as a school district. But at the same time, really happy that while, yes, we're going to see an increase, maybe not as big of an increase as what we're reading about and seeing in our own households. And then I did want to just touch base on health insurance, another substantial cost in the school district. We are trending as budgeted at this time, and in fact, slightly under budget. So that's good news. Well, I do know that we do have a personnel committee meeting coming up where I'm not sure if that made the agenda, Kate, but certainly things that we can talk about there as needed. But again, as you know, we made changes entering the current school year, one of them being that our open enrollment date or calendar year is now no longer the calendar year, but the school year. So we were able to kind of get through that. And but again, I think we're trending in the right direction as it relates to health insurance, food. Just a couple points of clarification. Yes, we are seeing an increase in food, just like anybody else. We are part of the federal food nutrition program, and as a result of that, and I do know that we may consider doing things differently moving forward. Maybe not as an entire district, but possibly at a school or two, and then eventually maybe moving away from that. But because we are part of that program, we are currently getting full reimbursements for those meals. And so, again, we're not necessarily, yes, put it this way, we could be making more money than we currently are, but we're still doing quite well in our food service program. But again, everybody's being impacted this way at this time. General staffing, again, as I've shared with the board previously, while other companies and businesses and even school districts are struggling to find qualified workers, for example, some of our comparable school districts, they are experiencing bus driver shortages. They are experiencing shortages in staffing for food service workers. For example, also custodial workers, as well as others. And as I've reported to the board, we seem to not be having a problem there at this time, like other districts may be experiencing, or other companies are experiencing. While we do take an aggressive approach to recruit staffing, as that is one of our strategic goals, I also think there's something to be said about just being who we are. Being in New Berlin, being in Waukesha County, being a reputable school district, I think that certainly goes a long way. And so that's just something that you can't necessarily plan for. We just got to continue the level of excellence that we continue to expect of ourselves and our students and so on. And then I did finally want to just touch base with the board. You may or may not be aware that the Evers administration did allocate additional funds for public schools last week. And as a result of that, we did see an influx of dollars from the state of $584,000. That was not, while we knew something might be coming, we didn't know exactly what. And this was the amount that ended up, that we are going to end up receiving. So bottom line, as it relates to our budget, this was not allocated for in our budget. So when we receive these dollars, these will be set aside per se, and our goal is to likely roll these over into fund balance at the end of the year, assuming that we can stay on budget as we currently are. So anyway, those are just kind of some general trends, real-time trends in our budget. So this was a recap of our previous presentation, these following slides here. But basically just wanted to let you be aware that these are our current projections based on what the board had previously approved as it related to our capital improvement facilities planning. So we finally now have a plan, not only a facilities plan, but more importantly, a funding plan for that facilities plan, which is great. Before, we had a plan and not a lot of funds, or at least strategically didn't have the funds necessarily to kind of move that forward, and fortunately now we do, for various reasons, and I give credit to Patrick and the team for the job that they've done, and certainly the board for their support and the ideas they've also brought forth. But at the end of the day, we have a healthy fund balance, and the plan was to kind of spend that fund balance now. And then this I'm going to call it version 1 of the long-range facilities funding plan. This is what it had looked like that the board had previously approved. And again, this had been approved last spring. And then just as a reminder, the plan does take into account ESSER funds, which are dollars that are kind of explained here. And these are the ways that you can spend those dollars as it relates to that. As I mentioned to the board previously, as of right now, there are no strings attached to these dollars that we are aware of. We're going to continue to monitor that. I continue to, I've spoken to Senator Kuyenga at least a couple different times over the last several weeks on several different things, one of them being cursive writing. Like we've got other things to worry about right now, and we'll handle cursive, but he fortunately is no longer a supporting vote for that, and so we think that's kind of... Anyway, back to ESSER funds. I I just, again, these are the things that they can be spent on, and we have a plan for that. And this is the funding impact. And just want to clarify that these are the anticipated dollars, and there was a release today from DPI that 95% of the ESSER $3 have been approved by the feds. I want to qualify that with 95%. It's our interpretation that 95% of the 90% has been approved. And so there's still some dollars that have yet to be approved. I wish the federal government would just approve it so that we can get the money into the hands of our school districts and allow us to do what we plan to do with them. But despite that, these are the anticipated allocations as it relates to that. And then we started talking about long-term debt. And based on the conversation previously, the board, at least from my take, was interested in paying down some of that debt, at least the callable debt. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear on, it's the far right-hand column that we're going to be asking for the board to approve tonight, or it's our recommendation for the board to approve that. Well, and that's for the West Ronald Reagan refunding bonds. And we have $4.535 million that's callable this March that we are recommending that the board pay off this March. And so with that, these are our recommended next steps. Pay off that debt. You do save some interest as a result of that to the tune of about $260,000. And then we would be utilizing Fund 41. So rather than paying off that debt annually, then we would be levying through Fund 41 dollars to pay for or to fund our long-range facilities planning. So you're taking care of the debt, you're fronting that, and then basically, and I think this is actually a really great way to go forward, is you only spend the money that you get. Now, again, we're comfortable in what we see, coming, but again, a plan is only as good as a plan until you actually get the dollars. So while this, the plan is good, and again, we've been able to push things up in our plan as a result of what we projected now. But, if things went the other way, we would move some things out and put them back to where they originally were. So again, that's what we're looking at. And then I do want to kind of touch base on what those things will look like. The board did ask, so what exactly would the plan look like? I want to highlight a couple key things. We're going to focus on LED lighting projects so that we can get a return on investment sooner than later. And then I do know that based on the facilities committee, not only was that a priority, but also the intercom systems, or otherwise known as what are we calling them on here, Patrick? The PA systems. I don't think they're intercoms anymore, like back in the day, or maybe they are, but they're going to be updated because they are kind of end of life. And again, that was something that was recommended by, encouraged by the facilities committee. And so you basically have what we plan on doing the next at least 5 to 10 years. Now, again, we're not necessarily going to be looking for, that far out. We're going to need to revisit this every year, but it's tough to call our shot, 8 years from now today, especially in a public school and the way our funding works with biennial budgets and so on. But I think we've got a great plan, and I think we've got a great funding plan that we are recommending. As far as ROI, I want to point your attention to the very bottom line and note that our expected ROI is 6.5 years, but that's without potential incentives that we could get for these projects. Those were not factored in. In some cases, that ROI could actually be cut in half based on the incentives that we get. And we would work with We Energies to determine what those would be. Patrick, anything additional you can add to that as it relates to ROI in this slide?
No, not really. It's a lot. other than it, a lot of it is going to depend on what kind of incentives we're going to get from Focus on Energy.
I'm sorry, yeah, it was focused on energy, not we.
We can't anticipate what that is. Those are incentives that change from time to time, year to year. So.
And then the next slide was a question I believe, Kate, you had asked, or somebody had asked, how much will we be allocating in Fund 41? These are the dollars that we would plan to allocate in those budgets moving forward. And again, what this allows us to do is to fund our facilities plan and continue to fund it, which have already been previously approved. We're just looking at you to update a new version of that and doing it in this way. What additional questions do you have? Because again, the next two items is where we're going to be asking for you to approve the authorization of us to pay down or pay off the fund balance that's callable in March, and then approve version 2 of what we're calling of our long-range facilities funding plan.
So looking at I have a lot of confusion on the slide 13. Oh, sorry, 12. It shows in 2023 LED at Orchard Lane, Elmwood, Reagan, West, and Eisenhower. But then on the LED slide on 15, it shows Poplar only Orchard Lane and Elmwood that year. Then it shows Reagan and West the year after, and then Eisenhower in 2025. That doesn't match those.
Those will have to be moved up. So that's an error on our part.
So you are planning on doing all those in 2023?
That's correct.
Okay.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Provided that we can get the material for that. If we're still
Yes.
experiencing the shortages that we are right now, we may have to move some of those around. And if I can just add, that's the beauty of the plan that we've developed. Not only is it funded, but if we run into those supply chain issues, it's very easy for us to slide projects to a different year and then backfill those with other projects that we were planning on doing. It's a very flexible plan. So,
Great catch, Mitch. So if, again, board, these would be the ones that we would be approving, not the ones that are in that other slide.
So we're asking for, in total, we're asking for $4.8 million over the next 3 years, roughly $1.5 million per year, $1.6 million, based on slide 16.
Correct.
And the board approved earlier this year in February, $350,000, $500,000, $750,000, and $1 million. So
that was from, and again, those totals were not what the board had approved.
$2.5 million is what the board approved. So we asked for $350,000 to be spent in FY22, $500,000 in FY23, $750,000 in '24, and $1 million in 2025.
And those are just, I believe, Patrick, those are just right out of fund, or the general fund.
Well, we approved that that's what we asked for, a goal of that, and we said you could use some out of fund balance. We wanted some from savings. I'm looking at the old presentation.
Yeah, and this is what had been approved.
$350,000, $500,000, $750,000, and $1 million. Yeah.
But you have to look at the total amount down below, the total funding at the bottom.
What is that? How are you calculating that total funding?
Adding up all the items in each column.
So I guess this is where I'm confused. We didn't approve the use of $800,000 in fund balance in 2022.
Yeah, we did. It's in the presentation for March 22nd. So our original request was $350,000, and then the fund balance that we allowed was $800,000 for $1.1 million.
In March, you said?
March 22nd.
Yeah, this slide was taken from that presentation.
Some of the things that are in that capital budget were due to additional fund balance as a result of supply chain issues, where there were expenses we were anticipating making in fiscal year 21, but we couldn't actually book those expenses because of when we actually received the material. So that's where we had that additional capital budget.
Diane, did you put that in the facilities folder too? So I guess I'm looking at the 2/22/21 long-range facility planning update. And we don't have $800,000 from fund balance that we were approving through all those.
And again, just want to clarify that what's noted here is, and there is an increase by $700,000 as a result of what Patrick just mentioned.
We had a carryover of expense from last year.
Correct.
That's what that's from. We expensed it last year, and it had to carry over to this year because of supply chain. So last year's
Yeah,
expense-
the surplus that we had last year was 3 million, and it was really only 2 or whatever it was, 1.5. But that's separate from what this is. This is asking for over $1 million every year, right?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm not following the question, so you'll have to refer to a page so I can answer that. Are you looking at the 3 years?
Yeah, so I got page 6 right here. Can you walk me through this, Joe, of how, the capital budget versus,
Yeah, and again, I think probably the biggest question, Mitch, that what you're seeing is in that first year, there's a little, it's not an asterisk, but it's a little, whatever. That there's an additional $700,000 in there because of the carryover. And then if you look at the future years, it drops back down to that 150. But as far as all the other items on here, those were all that had been previously approved. I'm not sure what's in that folder, Mitch, if it was a draft that might be in there, Diana, I'm not sure.
that's what I was trying to find the old that we approved.
Which is the March 22nd.
Right.
I just went back to the March 22nd agenda, and page 9
It's
of
like,
that presentation matches this one exactly, except for the $700,000. And it doesn't break out the debt and the capital budget rows, but the
Can you said
first
March
and
9th? I'm
second and
sorry.
last.
March 22nd,
March
March
slide
22nd.
9 on the presentation. That's what we approved.
If anyone else wants to ask any questions, I'm going to read.
Are there any other questions? So, bottom line, what's changed? Like, since the first presentation, are we spending more money in the end? I guess that's
No.
We're just paying down debt.
What's changed since the first presentation is we had a budget surplus since then. As a result of that surplus, we are recommending pay down the callable debt, which is the first action, the first action item for tonight. And then the second piece was updating how we're going to fund that long-range facilities plan. And we're going to be doing that through Fund 41. So instead of paying the annual debt that you're paying down this year,
So that, those numbers are what we pay in that debt every single year.
yes,
Instead of paying it for debt, we're paying it, and we have the option.
through Fund 41.
Right.
Like, if something comes up, we
Correct.
have to spend that money.
You adjust it.
We don't have that debt that is callable, that we have to pay.
That's correct.
It gives us options.
Correct.
That's how much we're saving, those 3 numbers, in each of those years.
We're not saving that.
No, but that's not what we're not paying in debt service, right?
Correct.
That's what I'm trying, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
used the wrong word, but that's what, I think we're all saying the same thing, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, our debt savings is like $250,000.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's what we're not paying.
What's that?
That's what we're not paying on debt service because we're.
I'm looking at the 322.
Right, yeah.
It says target goal to spend is 350 in FY22, 500,000 in 23, 750,000 in 24, and $1 million in 2025.
So as a point of clarification, that's what the board expected of the administration. That's what the board expected of us to do.
Yeah.
As a minimum.
as a minimum.
Which,
And that's not what we voted on, Mitch. On March
No.
22nd, we
Correct.
voted on slide 9 and approved it. So it doesn't matter what anything else says, because
Correct.
that's the document that we approved.
And essentially, you approve more than that.
Right.
yeah, so I'll just comment. I think this is awesome. I mean, I think you took the mission of what we were trying to do, which was to fund the long range planning, and as well as, the ability to get rid of a huge chunk of debt that we have. So I think this is really great work.
And
Thank
all
you.
doing so while paying attention to the facilities needs that we have, which are significant, and we've had to delay because of budget issues in the past. So I agree.
We're gonna have the debate during the actual motion, so this was just a time of clarification, so we all understood what's being presented to us, so we can get into that at the next stage. So if there's no further questions for clarification, we can move on to the motions. Your question? Ron, do you have a question?
Oh, I was going to make a motion.
Oh, okay. All right, then. We can go on to the motion. Then do I have a motion to approve the authorization of School District New Berlin administration to use the fund balance to pay off $4,535,000 of callable March 2022 Fund 38 debt?
So moved.
That was first.
Oh.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Seidel to approve. Any discussion at this point?
I mean, I'll just reiterate, I think this is great.
I'm actually going to concur with Kate on this. This is absolutely fabulous. It's something we've been talking about for a long time. Something I know I've been pushing for a long time to get to a place where we can call and pay off debt, because in my opinion that debt payment is due every single month. And the fact that we can take it off and then use the money that we're paying for the debt to utilize, and gives us so many options and so many windows to be able to use that money in a better way. Or if things go astray, we have that extra money that we don't have to spend. So it's nice to have a little bit of that breathing room within our budget. Great job, guys.
And I would concur as well. I know when I was running for the board for the first time, our overall debt was about 10% of our entire budget, because we had so much debt. And that is hard to carry around when it's that much of your ongoing expense. So as a district, we're doing our families, our taxpayers, and all of our stakeholders a great service by being able to reduce the debt that we've been carrying around for so long. And we can then free up those dollars for worthy projects and causes like maintaining our facilities, developing more innovative educational programming, or more opportunities in the trades for our kids, or whatever it is that we have as worthy projects. It frees up those dollars. And that's a big deal, I think, for all of our families.
I'm in support of it. The only thing I would push is, again, with the LED, if we can bring that up at all, and any of those into this year, if you guys have availability for that. Thanks.
Will do.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got to say, I'm extremely happy that we're paying down our our first due callable debt. This is going to free up quite a bit of funding, and if we continue to maintain our fiscal health, I'm looking forward to seeing us debt-free in the next 10 years. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? I just would reiterate what everybody else is saying. This is fantastic news, and this is great that we're being able to pay off our debt. So then, if there's no other discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Then next motion would be to approve version 2 of the Long Range Facilities Funding Plan.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Kurth, a second by Mr. Seidel. Any discussion? Anything different to add? No? I would only add to that I want to be real careful now that we're finding ourselves in a good situation. We want to keep it that way. So, just
No pressure. Thank
yeah,
you.
no
Yep.
kidding. So don't want to see us getting excited that we have all this extra money. Just be careful, because we don't want to be in the same situation we were 3 years ago. So it's
Agreed.
fantastic where we are now.
I wanted to add with that, with the ESSER funds.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned that we're going to end up having some sort of restrictions in the future of having to pay that back with some sort of condition. So it's great money to have, but let's have that as our savings account and not as we're ready to spend that money, because I don't want to be cutting a check for $5 million if there's
What-
additional.
I guess I'd ask of you, Mitch, what kind of, I mean, I guess legislatively, when the dollars are given, at that time, we would know if there were strings attached to it.
That's not necessarily true.
Generally speaking, it is, though, because the problem
No,
is that
generally speaking, there could be funds in the future that could be accepted that would tie into past funds that would end up having to be paid back. We all know that the federal government kind of marches to the beat of their own drum, so I tend to concur with Mitch on that just because there's no such thing as a free money, and there could be strings attached at some point in time.
Agreed, Ron, but I think that what I'm trying to get at is that if we were to be offered additional money, then we would know what the strings were that are going to be attached to it at the time. And if it said that it's tied to prior performance on prior dollars that we spent, then we'd have to evaluate at that time whether those were dollars that we should take or whether it was in our interest to take. I think that the notion that the government is going to give us ESSER funds and then 2 years down the road say, and by the way, that money you took, now you have to demonstrate X, Y, and Z without prior notice would be from a litigation perspective very difficult for them to uphold, because it would be a restraint that they would have had to publish and make us accept in the acceptance of those dollars. Fundamentally, it doesn't hold up in a litigation setting, is my point. So, what I'm trying to say is I'm not particularly worried about that, but I think that if we are going to get offered other dollars from whatever resource it is, that we should evaluate, and I think we do. I think that Patrick and Joe both are well aware of our concerns about that, and that if those dollars are poised to be distributed, that we'd have to find out. And I think that, as a side note, the Wisconsin Association of School Boards offers some really good resources by which we can use to evaluate what the expectations would be in us accepting those dollars. But I think that would be the time to visit that issue. I think that it's a little bit unnecessarily concerned at this point, because we would know when offered the dollars what the conditions were.
Agree to disagree, but thank you.
I don't agree with that either. I think the government can choose at any time to change their strings attached to whatever money they give out. Maybe we'd be safer with the first disbursements. I think. Yeah, the third one hasn't gone out yet, so that one maybe we should be more concerned.
In all seriousness, if that's our philosophy, we should never take any dollars from the government ever, because they could do it at any time.
No, just saying,
Right?
don't,
That's
let's
the
not
bottom
spend
line.
it right away. Let's just make sure that,
I
caution,
think
just caution.
I think Chrysalin's said it before. Let's be conservative with a small c and make sure that we don't spend money that we don't know that we would have to pay back. I mean, the other option is go and spend it and don't worry about it, and I don't think that that's a very good approach. So,
Note taken
Okay.
across the board.
All right, if any other comments, then we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? None. Motion passes then. Then we have up, discuss open enrollment for 2022-23.
We are not asking for your approval tonight. This was only on the agenda to refresh your mind that once a year the board does have to at least affirm or change their board policy so that we can determine what our open enrollment seats will be. So what we will be recommending next month is that we keep the policy the same as what the board moved it to last year. So while 3 years ago now, the board did approve, I guess it would have been 2 years ago, did approve open enrollment seats for the first time in many years. It was a limited amount of seats based on the administration's presentation. And then obviously we then got into the what now with COVID and not knowing what enrollments we're going to do and so on. I do know there was a request made by at least Crislin last year, possibly Kate, to consider opening up more seats. And we were able to do that in a creative way that I think met the needs of the full board, as well as that of being cautious with the enrollment. So what the board approved last year, which was different than previous years, is that last year in the policy, we guarantee spots for current enrollees, or those that are current students that move out that want to remain here. They would be able to do so, as well as siblings of those that had been approved for open enrollment previously. What that did is that actually more than doubled the amount of seats that we had available last year. And so, again, not knowing what numbers are, and again, while I have been an opponent of open enrollment for various reasons, my main reason being because it's very difficult to project what enrollments will be next fall. And I know that in some capacities, yes, we've got a great product to be able to share with others, but we also want to make sure we're being fiscally prudent in doing so and not necessarily opening up seats for kids that will take us over the edge as far as I now have to hire extra teachers because I opened up those seats and then in fact costing the district dollars. Or you bring in a student, and again, I do know that we kind of put a safeguard in our policy, but you get a high cost student and now again you're losing dollars, and those are the things that are very difficult to project. But I will leave that to the board. I mean, we've crossed this new ground. We now have seats. We now have more seats as of last year. We believe that we should leave it as is, but if the board feels differently, let us know. But again, we're not necessarily seeking action tonight. We'll be asking for that in January, and then depending on what the board wants, it'll allow us some time to kind of put our heads together and get you what you want so that we approve the amount of seats in the second meeting in January. Any comments related to that?
I just had one comment. The only comment I wanted to make was regarding the notes about the establishment of a waiting list. So our current policy allows us to establish a waiting list. That was a change that we voted on. I don't think it was last year, I think it was 2 years ago, that we added language allowing us as a district to create a waiting list. There is this note about the fact that we accepted 0 students off the waiting list for the current school year, as we had declared 0 students at all grade levels. And then the question was, does this give false hope to people who are applying, for open enrollment to New Berlin schools? I wanted to remind people that the reason that I asked at that time to have the waiting list established was because statutorily under section 118.51 sub 3 sub a sub 3, that's the date that where it's established that allows us as a district to revisit our decision from January every year. So in other words, open enrollment seats are established in by the last regular meeting of a school board in January. That's statutory. So we have to vote on it sometime in January, no later than the last meeting. So once you vote on those seats, you establish those seats for the coming school year, that is the following school year. However, under 118.51 sub 3 sub a sub 3, that language says that a district can revisit their open enrollment numbers after the first Friday following the first Monday in June, if they wish to. However, you can only revisit that January determination if you allow the establishment of a waiting list. That's the critical issue. So if we were to change our policy that says that we're not going to establish a waiting list, we're cutting off our options as a school district. So then we're saying to ourselves, we don't want the choice. We don't want the choice to establish any more seats. So I'd
just
rather,
As a point of clarification.
yeah,
We're recommending the policy stay the same, which includes. that language.
right. I know, but there was this note about wait lists.
Yeah, it's
Just a note.
And,
It does create false hope,
But-
but it also gives us the option to be flexible.
Right.
It's both.
And so that's my point. So I'm saying, does it create false hope? I think having an open enrollment policy at all, I would argue, could create false hope if we're not going to accept kids, right? But I would just ask that we, in line with the administration's recommendation, keep that part of the policy the same, and that we allow for the creation of a wait list because of the fact that that allowing the wait list gives the board options, and we keep our options open. You can always say in June, no, we don't want to make any changes to the January vote. That's fine. But I think to limit our own options seems quite silly.
We'll take this up in January.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
Well, no, but you asked for questions.
Well, those
Or
questions.
comments.
Now you're advocating for a stance.
No,
so.
it wasn't just questions, Janet. It was also any comments on
you-
this thing.
I know.
And so that's what I was trying to do.
It just started going a little further than what our purpose is
But
for this
it was
evening.
a statutory clarification that I think had
Yes,
to be
no,
made.
that was, I don't have any objections to you mentioning that. I just wanted to focus on the business that we have to do tonight.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Real quick, before we vote in January, could I just get current enrollment as well as available seats at each school? Please, and thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
We'll be sure to include that in the notes for the next meeting.
I have a question about, our current policy provides a guarantee, and then it says in parentheses, versus statutory priority. So is the statute to give priority if you have seats to the currently enrolled students and siblings?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
just
And
wanted to
on the
make sure I
waiting
was
list,
reading
they
that
also
right.
are at the top of the waiting list.
Okay, thanks.
Will you be able to give us another update like you did last January of how many students you think we'll be getting from the sibling, open enrollment, and all
Yes.
that? Okay, good. Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you.
So now we have a bunch of policies to approve this evening. We'll start with policy 0131.1, bylaws and policies, replacing the current policy 9310. We have one revision since the first read of last week, which was added after our discussion. So do I have a motion to approve this now as presented?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Helmer to approve. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, then we'll take the vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. And then we have our next one, which is policy 0142.8, candidate forums, debates in schools. Do I have a motion for
So moved.
Second.
So, let's see, I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth. He was like maybe a little before you. So any discussion? Did we do any revisions? I don't think. Oh, wait. That was there last time, I think. So, yeah. All right. If there's no discussion on that one, then all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? The motion passes on that. And then we have discuss approve policy 0144.2, board ethics, replacing the current policy 9161. And we did revise since our last meeting. The request was to take the current and the new and sort of like combine them together.
Yep.
And so we have Diana who did that for us, which looked really, I thought it looked good. So do we have a motion for that?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Helmer to approve. Any discussion? Is everybody good with all those revisions?
I
You have a
did
question?
have a question, yes. On item C.
Which item, I'm sorry, Kristen?
C is in cat.
Thank you.
Sure. So this says attend all regularly scheduled board meetings insofar as possible and become informed and prepared to discuss and act on issues to be considered at those meetings. My question was, in our original our current code of ethics, which is item G, it says attend all meetings and be prepared at those meetings to discuss and act on issues before the Board of Education. And this language was taken from the new policy, the Neola policy, where it says attend all regularly scheduled meetings insofar as possible and become informed, blah, 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 blah. My question, or my ask is that we change the language from attend all regularly scheduled board meetings, because we could have special board meetings, and we want all board members to be at all board meetings if they can. But I like the adding is insofar as possible, because sometimes people do have conflicts, and that's realistic.
So then is your only recommendation that we just delete the word regularly?
Regularly scheduled, yeah. Because attend all board meetings
Yep.
that, we have. I think that's what we want all board members
So
to
we
do.
have a friendly amendment to this.
Yeah, I don't
strike
really,
that word?
Yeah, I don't think there is such a thing as a friendly amendment, but I appreciate the spirit in which you're saying that. Yes, that's what I want.
Well, I believe a friendly amendment is just that that the
no one-
person who makes the motion and the second they have no objection to it, so we'll just do it.
Sure.
Okay, everybody's good with that change?
So just to be clear, we're just striking regularly, right?
Regularly scheduled. Because they're going to be scheduled.
Right.
Because we have to
Just
post them.
scheduled board meeting.
Right.
Yep.
That makes
All
sense.
board meetings, yeah.
I know, they have to be scheduled, yes. So then if there's no other discussion on that, do we want to take the vote? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Then we have discuss approve policy 0166 agenda. Before we do the motion, I will give you the update on that revision, because that one you all directed me to speak with the attorney about one of the revisions that I had suggested. So as you'll notice, it's been taken out. So she did agree. Yeah, it sort of gets a little too complicated when it comes to quorums and the fact that, possibly there could be 4 people who gathered who decided they wanted something on the agenda. So that's just been taken out. She did suggest to me, and I was able to confirm with her, because this is something I thought of doing, but I was afraid that it would be in violation of open meetings, but she said it's not. She said I could poll board members. So if and it doesn't matter like whatever topic it would be, if any of you came to me and said, I'd like to see this on the agenda, and if I, as the president, thought, I don't really think there's enough interest in this, I could send out an email to all of you, like a blind carbon copy, no replying to all, just saying, are you interested in this topic? And then if I got enough of you responding back that, yes, you think that this is worth discussing, then I could put that on the agenda if it's something I feel that I want more input from the board. Because I do feel personally, as the president, I want to take direction from all of you, and that's one of the things about being president, and even before I was president, and regardless whoever it was, I think that, as a president, it shouldn't just be me what I want to be doing, or I certainly wouldn't want whoever else is president to just be doing whatever they want. I want direction from the rest of the board, so I was glad to hear that she said I could do that if I'm looking for direction from the rest of the board members. So that's something that I think I would do if that ever happens, if that situation comes up. And then the other thing I did, based on feedback, was I mirrored the language as far as expectations on fellow board members as to timing, is what we did as what's in there for the administration, because we want the administration to be mindful of our time and to give us enough time to prepare. So we have the administration has sort of guidelines on there, and so I did the same language for us as fellow members, but gave us 1 day extra, just so we can help get the whole agenda all together. But again, it has that flexible language in there that basically says, as much as possible. That's the goal. We would really hope that you would do it within 6 days to give everybody a chance to see what it is that you would like to present. So with that, then I will ask for a motion to approve policy 0166 agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Oh my gosh.
Jeff and Ron.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Seidel. Any discussion? Okay with this? Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, I'm happy with those changes, Janet, and I think
Okay.
that they do conform with what my concerns were
Mhm.
at the last version of creating a negative walking quorum. That was a real problem with that previous policy, the previous language. I also do like the fact that individual board members may include items on the agenda upon the concurrence of the board president, so you don't have to poll, but you can poll if you want to, or whoever's the president. And I like that it's a permissive standard. And I appreciate the spirit in which the standard is offered as far as the timeline for board members contributing materials. The only concern that I had about the previous language was surrounding when a board member looks at an agenda as it's been released on the Wednesday before a meeting, and there's something else that should be addressed in response to something that we're going to vote on, you can't get it in 6 days ahead of time. But this language doesn't prevent that from happening, which I appreciate, and I think that's reasonable. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so the intent is that if you know it's if you're asking for something to be put on the agenda that's not in response to something you already see on the agenda, we ask at least that you would give 6 days. Obviously, if you see something on the agenda and you want to respond to it, then the rest of the language in there does still allow for that. It's just a matter of just keeping in mind that we have certain expectations of the administration, and I think we sort of have certain expectations of each other. All right. Anything else on that then? All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Memberships. I also have an update on that. I spoke with our attorney about that. She said that this is an unnecessary policy. It would also make it cumbersome so that every time that we would change a membership, we would have to change the policy. As of right now, we tend to vote annually anyway on memberships in such things as WIAA and our WASB membership. So I'm actually would recommend and ask for a motion to remove current policy 1520 and leave it at that.
So moved.
So I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth. Any discussion?
My only question is, the removal of policy 1520 wasn't on our agenda. Can we vote on that?
I believe so, because it's the topic of still
The topic was to vote to discuss and approve policy 0175, which I don't think we're doing.
Well, but
And
it
then
says
replacing
replacing
it.
policy 1520.
But we didn't put on the agenda that we
Okay,
wanted
so
to
then
repeal
do we
that.
want to?
That's the only concern I have procedurally.
If we want to, if you're going to be very.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you just have to make the motion that we reject replacing it, and then make a second motion to eliminate 1520.
I don't think that's.
Or how about?
I don't think that would solve the procedural. I think it would make it procedurally unsound from a parliamentary perspective, in my experience, because it's not. That's not contemplated on the agenda. There's no action contemplated on policy 1520 itself. It's contemplated that we might pass a policy which would have the effect of superseding it, but it's not a straight up motion to say we're repealing it. It's not a repeal, which is what the motion would likely have to be. I'm just saying I don't think it's sound, whatever you guys want to do.
Can't we replace it with nothing? I mean, that's what we're doing.
Can we just put it on the agenda for January 10?
Sure.
I think we can, I mean, if we can
Okay, so-
just put it on next meeting
Right. Yeah.
agenda as requested,
repeal
I'd
it.
be happy to do that.
So then with the motion that's was already made, then we just rescind the motion.
Somebody has to table it.
I don't think it's
no,
a
that's okay.
tabling,
We
because
have
we're
to
not going to
rescind.
bring it up again.
So I rescind the motion.
Oh, okay, you can do that too.
Okay, so the motions have been rescinded. We are agreeing we're going to put a new item on the January to actually remove the current policy instead.
But then I think to dispose of item I, somebody has to either make a motion, we pass it,
Well,
and then it has
no,
to fail,
because
or somebody has to make a motion that we table it.
No,
I'll make
the
a motion to
would be-
defer to January 10th.
No. Hold on a moment. You guys.
Okay.
I'm going to just stay out of it.
Okay, so we could make a motion to approve policy 8310, public records, replacing current policy 1340, and all vote it down. That's what we should do. Oh, I'm sorry.
What? Yeah, that's the wrong one.
Whoops.
1520.
Yeah, you know what? We just because there's an item on there, it doesn't mean that we actually have to take action. Right. So we have a motion off the table. It's done. Okay. I believe that's correct.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Otherwise, we could make a motion and vote it down and say it doesn't pass.
That's technically what you should do.
Okay,
under-
so
under
we'll
Robert's
do
rules.
that because then we'll know we've done it. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve policy 8310, public records, replacing current policy 1340?
No, that's the wrong one, Janet.
I'm on the wrong one again?
Yeah, that's the wrong one. You wanna
Hold on.
approve.
I got it.
All right. Do
I
it.
move to deny policy 0175 membership.
No,
No,
you can't make that motion.
Make a motion to approve, and we're all going to vote no.
And then
Okay,
you're gonna.
I motion to approve the policy 0175 membership, replacing current policy 1520.
There you go.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Kurth.
I will second that policy.
Okay, you'll
Motion
second by Ms.
for
Wonderschlag.
irony value.
Okay, we've had our discussion. Any more discussion? So all those in favor of approving, raise your right hand. All those opposed, raise your right hand. Okay, motion does not pass.
It's parliamentary magic.
All right, so now we have discuss approve policy 8310, public records, placing current policy 1340. Let's see if there are any changes there. There were no changes since last time on that. Do I have a motion then?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Helmer, second by Mr. Kurth. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion, then all those in favor, raise your right hand. And all those opposed, it passes. And then discuss approve policy 9211, district support organizations, replacing current policy 1210. And that one, no changes.
Nope.
So do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth. Any discussion?
Is this necessary again? I just feel like there's such little substance in this that we couldn't add to something else. But I don't object to doing it.
No policy is necessary,
That's not.
except for the ones that are required.
Well, that's a real good clarification there.
I mean, this literally has like 3 words of value in it, and it's somehow 3 paragraph.
At least it doesn't specifically name anything, so that if we changed it, we'd have to change the whole policy. I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
think, here's the thing, I will say, as far as the proposed policy, the third paragraph is the important paragraph.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that it does happen,
We just don't want rogue
right?
parent
And you have to
organizations
have a
formed.
basis on which you got to say no.
I just
And-
can't believe that we don't have another policy that this couldn't somehow have been folded. It amazes me that
think
Neil
we
has
do.
this many policies, but
So, yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? None. Motion passes. And then we have our action item from closed session.
I move to improve the employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth, a second by Mr. Helmer. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. And we have our future meetings and dates. Board meetings are generally held the second and fourth Mondays, beginning at 7:00 p.m. in the Eisenhower Commons unless noted otherwise. January 3rd, we have a Personnel Committee meeting,
I neglected to say that that's at 4 o'clock and
4
it's
o'clock.
virtual.
Okay. Is that in person?
Virtual.
It'll be virtual? Okay. And then we have January 10th as a regular board meeting, and January 24th, 7 o'clock p.m., will be at Poplar Creek. Other important events and dates to remember is December 23rd through the 31st. Before you know it, it's winter break. So wish everybody from the school board here happy holidays and a Merry Christmas and a New Year, because that's when we'll see you next. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, a second by Mr. Kurth to adjourn. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next year.